Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. We continue our conversation now with Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli. Sir, thank you again for joining us. Chris Christie recently had a news conference, and everybody attended it, by the way, and so we all got to see it because they thought he was going to step down. He didn't. As a matter of fact, he doubled down, and he said that he wanted to renovate the State House at a pretty exorbitant cost. Would Governor Jack Ciattarelli continue with that renovation?
It depends on where it is when I assume office. I don't know how much of it's going to be completed in the next year. We may be so far along that things can't be changed. One aspect of the news conference begged more questions than it answered in terms of the financing.
Now, is this constitutional? Is he allowed to do this?
We had a congressman over the weekend in a newspaper saying that he doesn't think it is, and that's Congressman Lance, who introduced the Lance Amendment, which basically said that all borrowing requires taxpayer approval, citizen approval. It's of a concern. I think the governor should have been more descriptive in just how it is the EDA bonds are going to finance this.
Do you agree with the decision that the State House needs renovation, and was this the way to do it?
I agree that the State House needs renovation. I just wonder whether or not we were creative in discussing, analyzing all options.
Running as a Republican, you know you have a headwind, not only because of registration in the state, but also you have a governor, a sitting governor leaving office whose popularity, whose approval rating is at an all-time low. So in a way, you are running against Chris Christie and his legacy. How do you do that? How can you assure people that as a Republican, you're going to be much different than what Chris Christie did?
So a couple things. If you look back over the last 36 years, 24 of them have been a Republican governor in New Jersey. So we're really not such a blue state, we're a purple state. Another thing is there are 2.6 million unaffiliated independent voters in this state, and they lean just right of center. And that's where I am. The third thing is, if you look at my record, and I've been outspoken with regard to the governor, you see that I'm not the typical type of partisan. I'm a citizen first, and I represent a very, very diverse district, and I do that to the best of my ability. So when you look at my voting record, and you look at different things that I've said, and how I've been outspoken on some very controversial topics, including the governor's performance, I think that separates Jack Ciattarelli in a very unique kind of way.
Let's take the pension fund for a moment, because I know the state was again downgraded. The credit for the state was downgraded once again, and they pointed specifically at the pension fund and said this is a concern going forward. Nobody has been able to come up with a solution for this. Do you have one?
Yes, I do. What we did in 2011, I wasn't here at the time, that was the year before I got here, is we did a good job of reforming pensions and health care contributions to people's health insurance. What we didn't touch is the post-retirement health care benefit. This notion of people retiring from the state or from school districts and having the state pay for their Medicare Part B or their Medicare gap insurance for the rest of their lives and their family lives is not sustainable. It takes away all of our financial flexibility. It's causing a crowding out effect of epic proportions. It's why we can't make the pension payment. We need to reform the post-retirement health care benefit, and all new employees need to go into a 401k, and everyone who's a current employee with 10 years or less has to go into a cash balance plan. That's fair, it provides security, and it will make us solvent with regard to the pension.
Well, explain all this for a second, because I know that there's some state workers out there who retired and they hear this and they get worried. Are their pensions fine?
Their pensions are fine. The pension doesn't go bust until 2027, and even when it does, we will probably pay the normal cost, which is we'll go on a cash basis. Whatever the cost this year is to pay the pension, we'll pay it. What a lot of people don't know is last year, the pension took in $5 billion in earnings and contributions. It paid out $11 billion. That's a $6 billion deficit.
So it's not sustainable. There's no...
It's not sustainable, but what we'll eventually do is if the pension trust eventually goes totally broke, that $11 billion will just be built into the budget. But that's not the way to manage our finances. That's why Moody's keeps downgrading us.
Steve Sweeney wants guaranteed quarterly payments. Is that possible?
It's possible, but it's not the right approach, in my opinion. We don't want to box ourselves in that way. If there is some type of economic collapse, or Hurricane Sandy, you need financial flexibility. And at the end of the day, that quarterly payment doesn't matter in the sense that the governor can budget any pension contribution he wants or she wants. So if we budget $4, we'll pay $1 a quarter.
Last, the Atlantic City takeover. Would you do away with that? Would you try to get out of that deal?
I felt all along what was in the best interest of Atlantic City and Atlantic County was a municipal bankruptcy. that takes politics out of it. A bankruptcy court judge would appoint a designee that removes all politics. I've always felt all along. It's a very, very heavy-handed approach, and one that's dealt with a lot of cynicism in the sense that the state can't manage its finances, but now it's going to take over us and manage our finances. Here's the good news. The appointee, Jeff Chiesa, former Attorney General and State Senator, very, very competent, very, very well respected.
Thank you so much.
Larry, thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm sure we'll talk again. Jack Ciattarelli, Assemblyman from Somerset County and now officially a candidate for governor of New Jersey. We'll be right back.